This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, thank you. So, are you ready then?
This one's not coming out at all.
We're also, are we recording? Yeah, we have one, speak up. Okay, everyone, thank you. Not on the agenda, but in view of yesterday, Louis had made a request for some emergency repairs to a truck. He's here. I'd like him to go first and talk about that and some other thing that you mentioned to me today.
Okay, so we had, this time of year, all our trucks go to Plattsburgh, get inspected, all the big plow trucks. I had one that needed 2 leaf springs on one side, one on the other, and a canister. So that ended up costing $3,000. And so far, the other trucks have passed so far. We've done repairs on them before they went. This truck, between sweeping and bringing trucks back and forth, this got missed on the truck. So they caught it, so on their New York State inspection, so.
Okay, so in your text yesterday, you said that this will be covered under.
My equipment, maintenance.
Okay, and so what is it, what we're gonna do? We're gonna approve it? Is that what you're looking
Yes.
for us to do?
Normally, with something like that, because I need those trucks next week with the project going on in 86. So I just sent all you guys a text message to get it fixed, get it approved and get it fixed.
Okay,
So I can get the truck. Actually, they finished it today, so I can pick it up tomorrow,
okay,
because I need the trucks for next week, so.
all right. So I guess we're going to, it's a resolution approving you to spend $3,000 ratifying the action that you took.
Yep.
Based on the finding the truck up and unsafe because of the inspection.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion, questions?
For future reference, I mean, I didn't reply to the text because I didn't know if we were supposed to reply to those kinds of things.
Yeah, I, as I said, I took this as an urgent kind of request, but I knew we had a meeting today that he could come and answer
Okay.
any questions about that going forward.
Yeah, usually in the past, if I have an emergency or whatever, that's how I'll send it out. Just do that. Because if this was the winter, that would have been, I would have had it there and fixed already.
And back. And back, you said you
Yeah,
fixed
and
and back.
already. If
Okay.
it was,
Louis,
yes.
flag me on those emails like that.
I didn't do an email, I did the text.
Yes,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Hi,
You're not
Suzanne.
supposed to keep a copy of anything like that that's sent.
Well, now this is, so what we're doing is sort of a ratifying resolution of sort of the discussion we had
It was
yesterday.
an informal thing just to make sure nobody had a problem, and then the vote was gonna be today.
Okay.
And then the other thing I had was, I need to order my sand for next winter. And we get it across the street from Pat Remlar's pit. And it looks like I'm gonna need like $7,000 worth this year. We used a lot more this year, so, and it's $7 a yard, roughly. And that's delivered to our shop.
Okay, is this budgeted?
Yes, it comes out of my snow and ice.
Okay,
Now, does that go out for bid?
No, because it's under this contract for the county. And I did get a couple other bids, just because you asked me that last time. And Remlards across the street from us delivered at $7 a yard. Trudeau never got back to me, and Saranac Lake Quarry is $25 a yard. And that's not delivered,
Okay.
so. And we do no work at all. They literally drive it to the top of the pile, dump it, and we don't put it up or nothing. They do everything. And it's all done for $7 a yard.
so you're asking for a resolution
Yep.
approving you
Spend
to make,
$7,000 on sand for the next year.
okay,
I'll make it.
I'll second.
discussion or questions?
Just for my own information and curiosity, in the past, would Scott Lawrence or another highway department employee do a lot of repairs, routine repairs on the
Yes.
trucks?
So I have Norm, does most of our
Okay.
mechanic work.
Got
And
it.
with cleaning up and this project coming on 86 that we're hauling all the road grindings for, I have these guys out on the road. So we've been bringing our trucks, so every day we're bringing a truck to Charlie Boy's leading it and bringing it back. This happened to get caught up there and it got missed. But
Got it.
normally we do that kind of work, but this it got missed this time, plus we've been with people out on vacation or a day off and trying to get street cleaning done, because this year we had a ton more stuff. Usually we're done cleaning by now, but this year we're still cleaning. Looks like tomorrow might be our last day, but
So
we do all that work still.
okay, so we're in the middle. Any further questions or discussion about this resolution? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, carried. I have a question. Could you tell us now what the state proposing to do on Route 86?
So from Steinhoff's to the Trooper Barracks, they're gonna they're grinding the road, and then they're gonna repave it and do drainage work on 86.
How long is the project gonna last?
They think they'll be there for 2 weeks, but our part, so when they grind the road up, they dump it into our trucks. So I'm providing 7 trucks for them. So us helping them, we get to keep the material, the road
Okay.
grindings, that
And
we can use on our dirt roads and stuff.
and I'd asked the question, but you have use for all these
Yes,
things.
our dirt roads and stuff, we can put this stuff on.
You mentioned Juniper Hill,
Yeah,
Juniper
that's
Parish and things
an
like that.
important one.
How much stuff do we expect to get?
I'm not sure, but it's gonna be a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I
don't even know. So this project, sort of, we got involved only because we're doing the trucking. I actually didn't know about the project until I saw the lines came in, so.
Yeah.
But they asked me for the trucking, so I said, absolutely, because we will take the material.
Okay.
And
Yep.
use it on our dirt roads
So you're gonna leave the material,
at the highway garage.
okay. And I had mentioned, and hopefully we'll repeat, that if there's some left over from
Yeah.
after your priorities, that we address Hazelton
Yeah. We
Cemetery.
have to do
or
some
something else.
drainage up there too,
Okay.
for Hazelton. I'm suggesting like a couple drop inlets like we did on Juniper.
Okay,
We actually build the drop inlets.
Right.
And, some cross culverts going off into the ditches and stuff, so
Mhm.
I can this summer get you a price of what we can put some drop inlets and stuff in to get rid of a lot of that water. And
Mhm.
then if we do road grindings and stuff, it'll give somewhere where the water can go.
Okay.
Because if you ever notice on big rainstorms around that corner, the dirt washes into the road.
Yep.
So we gotta get rid of that water. And with, road grindings going down, makes it blacktop again, that water will have more, pressure going downhill, crossing that road, so drop inlets will help it cross over into the culvert system, then we can get rid of it,
thank you.
so.
Excuse me, on the $3,000 bill, did we get an all in favor on that?
No, we should,
We didn't get one.
yeah, I don't think so, yeah,
All in
So
favor.
all in favor?
I didn't vote,
I don't think we did.
I don't think we
Yeah.
voted. I think we went right into the
We
other
went
one.
right into the other one.
my apologies. Okay, thank you.
I have another general highway department question
Yep.
that's not related to the highway, related to the dam and the splash boards.
Yep.
So I wonder if, historically, so this is just a general historic question for Lou and Dawn and Darren, and I just wondered, obviously the sediment accumulation is an issue. I wonder if waiting longer to put the splash boards up, like this hard rain that we've had the past week or whatever, would help to clear some of no, it doesn't matter when they go up, okay,
It's not big enough.
doesn't make an impact,
Plus,
okay.
this time of year, the fishermen and stuff, we did them.
I know the fishermen really want the splash boards up April, April 1st. I know, I get them too, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter, if we left that down all summer,
It wouldn't
it
help,
wouldn't make a
Okay.
difference.
okay,
But a lot of times too, we try to get them up sooner than later, but it depends on the weather. And this year we had a ton of rain, so it took us, I think, I opened it up 2 weeks prior to us doing the job, so.
This paving project is paid for by the state, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their road.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
you said that's a state project, not a county project, okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
State DOT.
What day is it expected to start?
It starts June 4th. Actually, 2nd for them. June 2nd on their sign I saw, but we're working with them from June 4th for 3 or 4 days.
How long is,
They estimated 2 weeks, but I wouldn't count on that.
so it'll be single lane traffic?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Thank you, Louis.
All right, I got a baseball game to go to.
Au revoir.
Another one, yep.
They must have won last night.
They did. So, see you, buddy.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
A new business, I have the discussion of the dog control law. I'm actually, if the board doesn't mind, I just want to bring up three communications that I've gotten recently. I want to bring to the board's attention about things that people in the public would like us to address. So about beginning of May, I've got a telephone call about the discussion on the dog control law. I think I may have forwarded that email to the board.
Yes.
Okay, and so I did share with the board. There is our website says we have a leash law. You can kind of quibble. So the law that was adopted in 2011 says has to be under the control of and some people may just take that to be, command control kind of. My dog would always do exactly what I tell my dog to do. Yes, sir.
I think the terminology is full control.
Full control, but still full control. And so
If you lose control, you didn't have full control. So a leash is really the only way to do it.
yes, the town of Keene has a more specific definition of leash that they're going through. So the question is for this person was, do we have a leash law that we can enforce? That's a maybe, according to Doug, right? And then the other thing was we should revisit our STRs regulations to insist that guests who are staying at STRs who bring their dogs with them be under full control with a leash, a specific leash. So I said I would bring it up to the board. I have brought it up to the board, and I think going forward, if it becomes a greater problem, I think the STR changes would be helpful. And but we may want to find our leash law may need to be a little bit more specific. It says you're on a leash kind of deal instead of under full control, which is wiggly. The second thing was I had a request from the residents on Park Avenue heading up to the park for another speed bump put in. That even with the one speed bump we have, it doesn't seem to have the desired effect of slowing people down from coming down, and they have kids playing around there. So John is away.
There's two there right now.
Yeah, but it's,
The
There's
second one's
two-
been installed yesterday.
was it?
Yeah.
By who?
I don't know, it's there.
There's
Well,
two sets on the run.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, that's very good. Then the third one was I had a request. There's a tree from a tree that appears to be hanging over a building that was formerly may have been owned by Barbara Mulvey at some point, but this person says that it's dangerously hanging over the property where they live and where their kids live, and has told me that the tree is in fact on town property. So I just want to get a sense of how the board would like to approach problems like this, or how it used to approach problems like that, or what, if anything, we can do.
Can we go back to the dog control first?
Sure.
Everyone's absolutely positive that we don't have a dog control, like a leash law that predates whatever was passed in 2011? I thought we did have a leash law.
I thought we had a leash law. I thought we had a leash law prior to the 2011. That's my
Can I say
understanding
something
with
on
it.
that?
Sure.
In residential areas, like I live on Indian Rock, people walk their dogs without a leash,
Mhm.
and some dogs don't like other dogs.
Mhm.
So like, my daughter's dog was actually charged, it looked like a pit bull mix. It got here, I mean, I went out and, the man finally got the dog leashed. My daughter had full control over her dog, but it's scary.
Mhm.
So I think if you're walking in a residential area, you should always have your dog on a leash.
I just thought from growing up in the 90s, I thought there was a leash law at that time.
I thought there was here, but I'm not sure now.
Yeah, I always thought there was, with you, Tim, prior to all that there was always a leash law. It wasn't always enforced, but there was
Right.
always a leash law. Having just sat through this over a lot of meetings, a lot of people think that their dog is under control because it follows commands. But like
Correct.
Doug just said, that doesn't follow full commands. A lot of people thought, well, my dog, I like to take him out on trails, and he likes to run wild because he likes to
But
run
that's
on
different, I
trails.
think, on a trail.
But again, you might be walking on the trail and your dog's running wild because that's what your dog likes to do.
You're right.
But when it comes up to me, I may be skittish of that dog.
So you should put your dog on a
So,
leash.
you know, why should I have to be, deal with the dog when you should have that dog on a leash? That was some of the comments that we had, because some people may be skittish of the dog, but your dog may be the most wonderful dog in the world, but I may be scared of it. And that was it.
Because I witnessed what happened to my daughter's dog.
Yeah, and that was it.
I witnessed it.
Yeah.
And what I think my daughter's dog was doing was protecting her.
Yeah.
Because that's his job.
And that's it.
And it just, it scared me.
So it is. So when they're running loose like that, it makes it hard. And then
Because
it
the
makes it
woman
hard to
with-
get it under control, is what we have found.
Right, and the woman with the man say the dog didn't charge, and the young man said
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
He charged.
So if it's off your property, it probably should be on a leash. Because, a lot of people don't like to put their dogs on a leash unless it's, and then we also talked about people that have dog parks. If we had a dog park here in Wilmington, a lot of people that come from out of town bring their dogs to the dog park. Well, you don't know if that dog's friendly. So you run into it's just some scenarios that we've run into that you really have to think about when you start talking about leash law.
Oh, yeah, plus, Keen, Keen's been spending.
I know, I've been sitting in all these
two
meetings, this is
years
where all this is coming from,
At each other's turn.
because there's so many.
Jim.
How do we do this?
So I think
I'm
it's-
sorry, wait a moment here, Suzanne.
Just wait.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, we're trying to talk and I don't know what you're talking
No, I
about.
just didn't, I don't know what to do. I never did this before.
Okay, well,
Just wait till the end of the meeting.
yeah. No,
No,
it's,
at the end.
we'll get to, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so these types of laws, I think, can be beneficial because they'll help when there is a problem. For the people whose dogs aren't a problem, it's not as though Doug or anyone else is going to be driving around looking for unleashed dogs to ticket. But when there is a problem, then the law can come into play and help. I do think it's important to recognize that our board over the decades does have a track record of trying to respond to people's issues and whatever problems they bring to the board. And the board drafts local laws, and then there's a public hearing. And then the sentiment expressed at the public hearing is strongly against the local law. And the people who brought these issues to the board's attention become very timid and don't say anything. And then the board says, well, everyone here is against it, so why would we pass it? So if you want this, you need to be prepared for a public hearing and to speak up and to bring people to speak up in favor of it, because we've been down this road several times, including in the very recent past, where with a noise ordinance related to construction noise and logging. And it's a realistic issue that people have, and that's a legitimate thing for the board to try to respond to. But at the public hearing, not one person spoke in favor of the law. Everyone was just nitpicking and what if, and speaking against the local law.
It doesn't
So
sound too friendly though.
that's public life,
So how do we know when this is gonna be?
It'll be advertised and.
Yeah, eventually if one gets drafted. I will say, going back to whether we had one in the 90s or 80s, I think once the town board adopted this particular law in 2011, that just superseded the old laws.
The county has one that they put out every year.
I understand
In order
that.
for the dogs, and that maybe is getting confused with the leash law.
Okay, but neither, I'm just saying that to answer Tim's point about the effect of the one that you may have had, the board enacted that they could have said, yep, and we're just including the bill that, the law that we had in 1990.
The public hearing about the construction noise was not unfriendly, the atmosphere, but there was literally not a person spoke in favor of the law. The people who wanted the law enacted didn't show up, and it was a pretty full meeting of people speaking against the proposed local law. So if the people who allegedly want it are not even interested enough to show up to the hearing, I don't think any board would go forward.
How would we know? How was this hearing posted?
In a lot of different ways, on the town website, at the little supermarket, newspaper.
Post office.
So on your town website, you would have what you're gonna be bringing up on your agenda.
Yeah, so the next step would be, take a look at our old local law, draft a new local law to tighten up the idea that they should be leashed.
Okay.
That gets drafted, gets sent to the board for review and comment. It gets on an agenda for a regular meeting. The board decides to do something or not do something about it. If it decides to do something about it, then it'll hold a public hearing.
Okay.
That's,
Have you been following the leash law in Keene?
Oh, no,
Because
I thought in Wilmington, we had a leash law.
I did too.
Um,
I still kind of do. But
I'm finding out that I don't think we do.
It could be a resolution, not a law.
What's that?
Could have been a resolution, not a law.
Oh,
Well-
that's the difference. Okay.
it's muddy. So the board will probably have to, decide whether we want to tighten it up or not. But I think we probably will be looking at the SDR stuff for people who are guests and bringing their dogs with them.
can we do the
Calvin, you're kind of singling people out.
No nonsense. They don't own the property. I mean, they're here, they got a permit to rent the place out. You're telling those
We've done
people.
that before, though. I mean,
So are
Keene is
you
right. It's
putting
no difference than a noise ordinance, and you can't have a noise ordinance for SDRs without having it for the rest of the town.
Are you,
So
Well,
it's the same as a dog thing.
so are you gonna tell now everybody in their permit when they buy a permit that? you
Well, see,
can't-
the first problem under the town law belongs to Trevor. The second problem belongs to Doug.
Just so you know, I did field one call from an STR owner who was asking about that, and I explained it to him, and I sent him a copy of the law. And so that reinforced his position, so he could tell people to keep them on a leash.
Yep.
So he was doing his part.
Right. But not all are gonna do that.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure. I know that the sense of the board in the past when we discussed regulating like campfire smoke or noise from SDRs was that it would have to apply to every property in the municipality, not just SDRs. But I'm not sure that's true, and I think that would be a good thing to ask a town attorney about whether we can.
We really have to.
I think that the town attorney was asked before, and that was the advice that
that
we were
was
given.
the advice
That's
that
we were given.
the attorney gave at the time.
Yeah, and I know she's a obviously extremely well-respected attorney. Another attorney might have a different answer.
Then what do we do, go 50-50?
Flip a coin.
I guess ask for their legal analysis and see which one seems more persuasive.
Okay, so that's the leash law. Thank you. Update on the summer youth program in the beach. We have had a fall off in lifeguards this year. So 3 out of the 5 that we had last year did not return. And we have had no further inquiries except for we had the employee who was also worked at the youth program last summer wants to come back and work at the beach as well. And we have Dan here as well. The youth program itself, we do have another applicant who put in to join the first one to be part of the summer youth program. And we're going to work on that person has gone through first aid and CPR training. And I'll probably share with the board more of the details of the employee stuff ahead of the next meeting. A week or so ago, the Camp Placid in North Elba, basically what happened was over the years, they tended to just anyone in the Lake Placid Central School District would have been admitted to their summer program. They don't have the former camp directors now. The former camp director, there's a new camp director, And some of the people were receiving no Wilmington children can come into the North Alba program this year. I got in touch with the superintendent of schools, see if there was any help I could get in that quarter. At first, it seemed like I was going to get somewhere with that, but then he had a conversation with somebody at the Town of North Alba board, and he walked it back a little bit. So I had a meeting with Emily Politi, and this was at the last board meeting, so it coincided. And she got back to me with the idea that if Wilmington will give them a number of students who are interested in attending Camp Placid, they may come up with a fee, a tuition, a contract, or something like along those lines that Wilmington could make a contribution. So I gave, I think it's 5. We polled around, and 5 would be on the high end at this point. And so I pushed that forward to Emily in North Alba, and I'm waiting to hear what the plan is. It was really kind of disappointing. Lake Placid has plenty of space, and these kids go to the Lake Placid Central School, and these are their friends, and it seemed kind of small-minded on Placid's part to take such a hard position on that to begin with. And worse, they didn't tell anyone about it ahead of time. So they adopted a policy which says that if you're in North Alba, or if you work in North Alba, or there are 3 criteria, then your kid could attend. But if you're from Wilmington, but you don't necessarily live in North Alba, or you don't work in North Alba, but your kid goes to Lake Placid Central School, and some of them have been going for a few years, and their parents learned that no thanks this year. And so they handled it badly in that respect. So I complained about that to them, and also followed up with the supervisor of North Alba, and hopefully that we'll be able to work out a sort of a deal where if the kids from Wilmington who really want to be in that program, if they're going to ask for some assistance towards the cost of that program, I think we can budget for that going forward to make it happen. It's disappointing in Lake Placid Central School too. So that's the update for that.
We, thank you. We didn't talk about the tree at the park.
Okay.
To the extent that we need to.
Well, what do you think of the tree? Should we, if it's on town property and it's a risk to another person's property, are we supposed to take it down?
I don't see why not.
I know. So you have to verify it's on town property.
Okay.
They can say yes, but and I don't want to hire a surveyor exactly.
And we also have to, excuse me, there has been a couple trees on that property line that have been taken down in the past because they did pose a risk, and that wasn't that many years ago. I'm thinking maybe within the last 5 years. Don, does that seem accurate?
No, it's a little further than that.
Maybe 8 years, but
Okay.
there's also the thing where, that homeowner says it's a risk. Is it really a risk? Or is it a live, healthy tree that's been standing there for 80 years and, nothing's going to happen? So, I would think that the town would have to at least investigate it between John and maybe have, some local tree guy look at it to see if the tree is unhealthy or does pose a risk, or if it's just the person being nervous.
Okay. So we've done this sort of things in the past. That's the first thing I got on here. And then so we'll try to verify that it's actually a tree property. And then we'll have somebody look at it and try to evaluate the risk.
I think it was Jim Kelly that took the trees down, wasn't it?
Yes.
So in any
It's
case,
the little cabins
does
off
that
from
sound like
Buck
reasonable?
Park,
Have
where the picnic
have you
used to be in
spoken
the
with John
pines.
about it?
I did a little before. I talked to him about it, and then I've been asked to do that for a follow-up. So I said we would discuss it tonight, and we're discussing it tonight.
And John said John has no issue with taking them down, right?
No, he said this tree was bigger than he would be comfortable with taking down.
Right. But as the idea of taking it down, he's okay with. But he didn't want to do the sawing.
I don't know.
But
Yeah, I just, he was, is it on town property? And John, I'm not sure, wants to make the call on that one, unless it's clearly on town property. And then he'd also would prefer if we would get a tree specialist. But apart from that, he had no strong opinion on it.
So he's not sure if it's town property.
Yeah. So, I just, I kept taking down other people's trees that what I want to do, so. So I'll follow up with the owner, say we're gonna just, the board sort of will move forward to make sure it's on town property, and we'll have somebody look at it for purposes of the danger and take it down if it's dangerous. Does that sound okay?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Yep.
So now, back to the youth program, Tim. Did I have anybody have any comments or questions about the, what happened with Lake Placid?
Really poor
It's
form,
unbelievable.
totally ridiculous.
It is.
I feel really bad for the kids. I think it's just totally baloney.
It is. They're segregating again.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
actually segregating us again.
Yeah.
That's exactly
I
what
don't
they're doing.
under, but it's not,
So,
but North, yeah, I mean, the school is, and it's being run at the school.
in North Elba, same thing.
So maybe, I think to get anywhere, and not that it'll help, but I think we as a board should do a resolution and send it to North Elba in our disapproval, considering that most of Wilmington's in Lake Placid School District and things like that.
Sure.
I can't see where it would hurt, at least putting a little pressure on them.
Randy had something?
It's kind of like the bicycle giveaway.
That's just
from
what I
Iron
said.
Man last
Mhm.
year.
That's what I said.
I
yeah.
mean,
I think we
they
need to.
could check into doing a better job with that also.
Yeah, and that's the school.
That is the school.
Yeah.
So, okay, so why don't we try to do something for the next meeting?
The Camp Placid is literally held at the school, right?
It is this year
It used
because,
to be at the horseshoe ground.
because they tore up the horse show grounds. So the school at first, sound optimistic because they're, hosting it on school property, and then he walked it back. So, anyway.
I hope that North Elba will just deal with it. If it's only 5 kids,
Yeah, well, I'm also waiting to hear from them between now and the next meeting, and so we'll have a better idea of what their solution is, if that's so. But we'll do a resolution, but when we hear something that doesn't really sit well with us. Great.
As far as our summer program, have we put out any flyer or anything at the school for the seniors and stuff that we're looking for lifeguards and stuff?
Yes, we've reached out to, not necessarily the school. I'll have to follow up with Carissa, but Carissa's been, sending out as many, feelers as she can for lifeguards. The lifeguard problem is, as Dan probably knows, is the courses for certification are so, they're done. So I was at the county meeting 2 weeks ago, and they gave us a report for the month, and they're talking about their annual lifeguard certification. And it had occurred 2 or 3 weeks before. So the course is over. What are you giving it to us now for?
Well, we can usually get Deb Fox to do courses. She usually pops on at the end of the school year if needed.
Okay, well, maybe I'll call up.
I know 2 other instructors if you need other suggestions.
Okay. I was wondering whether you could stop by tomorrow to have a chat with you about
Sure. What time?
9? Okay. That's okay. Okay, thanks, Dan.
So it's you and Ashley at the moment?
What I gather.
Yes, no, I haven't spoken to Dan much.
Oh,
We're running
sorry.
around. So yes, it is Ashley and Dan right now. And Ashley is also the experienced returning youth program person. It's a young woman named Emma, who is the other person interested in the youth program. There was another person, but they can't quite get the lifeguard certification, and we're trying to find, so this may be a candidate for Deb Fox. So we do have people who are interested, but we don't have returning people with certification right now.
how many did we hire last summer? 4?
5.
We had 5 last summer.
Yep.
5?
Yeah. So no, that was fortunate.
And both of them also, or 2 of them also worked for the youth program, or just one?
Just one. Ashley did the youth program in the beach, and there was a young woman named Hannah worked up at the youth program last year. She didn't return.
But we do have another applicant, right? We do have another counselor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll share that with everybody. Okay. I have next on the agenda is the dedication of the beach pavilion. Tim had brought up a resolution at the last meeting requesting that the board dedicate the beach pavilion to the memory of Greg Lynch. We didn't have a full board, and so we sort of put it off to have some discussion today about it. Anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I'm sort of curious about what this. I know one part in town had been dedicated to Randy Preston, you know, the park, and what we have done historically over the years to honor long-serving town employees who've been. So I don't have a good sense of how this works. So I was hoping we could just discuss what the board members' thoughts are on that.
Well, I think my understanding was the reason Randy got or had a dedication was because he had died in office, is what I understood when all that happened. I think that's how that all took place. I definitely agree we need to honor Greg for all his years of service. As far as dedicating like the pavilion, things like that, I think if we start dedicating spots like that, we're going to run out of places to dedicate to people that do years of service, that do many years of service like he did. Because we have lots of people still alive that do years of community service, dedications, and things like that. I definitely think we need to do something. I don't know if maybe we do at the beach, the park, Heritage Park, some type of maybe a dedication wall or walkway, and maybe people can buy the bricks for their family members that have passed in memory of them, and then those that we dedicate, like for Greg, for the number of years of service, because he not only did 30 years for the town, but he also did dedication for volunteering over and above of volunteering. That we do a plaque, and so that goes as something special for those people that you're dedicating to. So people could do bricks in memory of people, and then the plaque could be something different from those that we are honoring. I don't know if that's maybe another way to do it, because I think we just have so many that do other things along the way that we've run out of places to dedicate as time goes on. So I definitely agree we need to honor people, no doubt about that, because we need to remember them and honor them for what they had done. I definitely agree with that, but that's just my thought on it. I don't know what everybody else's is.
Laura, do you have a thought?
I don't think there's any harm in it. I mean, it is just I think it's a nice honorary tribute. I think there are quite a few places where we could, I mean, we have the park, we have highway employees, we could do something. I don't know. I just don't think it's that, it was a large amount of service. I mean, that's a long time to be in office or to be part of the town.
And I agree that 100%, but I can think right off my head of 5 firemen that have 45 plus years, 40 plus years, and they also dedicate for all the events. Some of them do training, some of them do mechanic work for our department, some of them do other things. I mean, those are just people there. I can think, like what about the people that volunteer for all the other events we have in town and do all that work? People that just as we come along that are still alive. I mean, I'm just thinking, well, these people, where are we going to honor them at? I'm just trying to think if we did one spot where it would be a dedication to everybody is just what my thought would be. That's where I'm just looking at it.
Derek?
So I agree mostly with Tina, only in the sense of, look, I worked with Greg for 5.5 years. I considered Greg one of my good friends, and he did have 30 years of service with the town, but so did Shirley. And she also just passed, and we're not dedicating an area for Shirley. So I feel like, to start dedicating it to one employee and not another employee, there was a couple reasons that the field ended up getting dedicated for Randy. One, he died in office. Two, Randy was the one that wrote the grant, secured the funds to make that purchase for that property. And he's also the one that had the donations and went to people soliciting money to make that park what it is today with the extra pavilion and the bathrooms and stuff. And that was mostly due to Randy's efforts. And that's the reason that field was. As far as I know, that's the only place in town that has been dedicated to anybody that has any type of significance to it. So, although it's not anything against Greg, and I don't have a problem honoring him in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Greg did tons for the town. I just think that we need to err on the side of caution as far as putting too much emphasis on one person when there's been plenty of people, and there's still plenty of people that have that many years of dedication to the town.
Tim?
I wasn't talking about the pavilion. I was talking about the picnic area.
Okay.
And calling it
My bad.
Greg Winch Park. But I think, some kind of what you're talking about, Tina, I don't think who could ever possibly object to that. I also agree with Laura that there are plenty of places we can dedicate to different people. And we do have the E.M. Cooper Library. The baseball field is technically dedicated to someone, but those monuments.
Neil Cooper, I think.
Right.
They told me that was, yeah.
Right. So we do dedicate things to people, and I think there are plenty of public areas that could be dedicated to different people. And I've been talking with Shirley's family about what they'd like to see, how they'd like to see the town honor her. I would like Greg's family would like him to be recognized in that way. I see no issue with it, and I think that there are sufficient public spaces for honoring others. And your idea is perfectly fine as well. Who could be against that?
And I'd like to see, like, if we did something like that, and if we could put things out there like that, I'd like to maybe look at putting a brick for any more. People, things like that had dedicated all those years and stuff. That's what I want to see. I don't want those people to go unnoticed. Those people that worked, people like that. I just think people could buy bricks and put them there, so those people are not getting forgotten neither. Judy Bowen.
Or Bob Bowen.
Those Bob Bowen.
I
Don
thought,
and stuff.
I thought we should name the town hall after Judy
Those
Bowen,
people
but-
wouldn't be forgotten either. Nick, you worked for years for the town. Those people are not being forgotten either, and those people will be remembered, and those will be there for people to see in years to come. And that's what I would like to see.
Maybe like a clock that they did in Osable.
That's what I'd
That's
like.
what that is.
Something with this, even if it's a wall or a walkway, something that people would be able to, you would honor people and be able to still see those gone before us and then those coming up. And like you say, those that we are dedicating to, if we're going to recognize and do something, then maybe we do something different in a special different placeway thing, if we're going to do something different.
I have no objection to that whatsoever. Greg died recently. I mean, this is what you're talking about is a long-term project, and that's perfectly fine. But all I'm asking for is a plaque at the picnic area at the beach that says Greg Winch Park. That in memory of Greg Winch, public servant, family man, and pillar of his community.
It's effectively naming the park after him.
Bringing up Franny Lawrence, that we have a sculpture honoring Fran Vetters. and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
They raised that from one of the fishing associations. That wasn't the town that.
But it
raised
isn't a public, that's
They got
public
permission to put
property.
it There,
State right away.
What state though?
yeah.
State.
So in any case, I would like, personally, I'm concerned that we've, told you what, Tim? What did you tell them? Okay,
I said that, I didn't think this was gonna go.
thanks. I'm sort of, leery of setting precedents now. And I've had this discussion with people with their hometown heroes flags. Some people have asked that the flags be near the house where the family lives, and then others aren't near it. Well, there's on Bonneview and stuff, and so I would like a certain consistency so that we're fair and even-handed. So there may be other people who, because the town never dedicated public spaces to former employees, that, as I was saying, Bob Bowen, Judy Bowen, they put in a lot of years, but I'd certainly like the town to go through this sort of thoughtfully, because if naming one and then it invites people to ask, well, what about so-and-so? And then which is all we decided to go for it one day. So I don't know what the answer is exactly, but.
We have a lot of names, we have a lot of roads in Wilmington named after people, and I don't see the harm. It would be meaningful to his family and other people who we want to honor. There are, probably a dozen different ways we can honor other people, and no one objects to that. I just would like to honor Greg in this way.
And I agree it's gonna take a while to do it, but let's get started now. Let's find a place that we're going to decide on a place where we want to do this.
That's by all means.
Okay.
That's my,
Take it, take the ball and run with it. That's not I'm fine with it. No one would ever object to it, but my purpose and my vision was to name a small park after the superintendent of the Parks Department who worked for the town for 30 years. This other project that will take probably multiple years, that's a fine project, but someone's got to take the initiative to make that happen.
All right. So we'll revisit this. The next, Tim, it's the proposed amendments to the land use and comprehensive plan.
So before I invest time and in researching, we have new people here, so it's hard to know how far back to take this conversation. But we have, over the past few years, we've talked about amending the zoning code, and we have proposed amendments to the zoning code. I think probably everyone else here, maybe Dan doesn't have it. So I put them in a local law format, but the last time we went down this path, the effort ground to a halt. So before I reach out to law firms to try to get quotes, how much it would cost the town to help, how much they would charge the town to help us enact these zoning amendments, I just want to make sure that any of them have majority support of the board.
well, at the last meeting, we had talked about that the 30 feet would be natural vegetation. That would be left at natural vegetation under the general guidelines on second page, under section 6.
Okay.
So we had not the improved or jointly said we'd leave it at natural vegetation, was my understanding.
Okay. I don't remember that, but
We did mention screening quite a few times.
For the dumpster or for something else? No.
no, it's section 6.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That's the next sentence. Section 6, the last sentence of section 6 is what you're talking about, I think.
It does say at least 30 feet of natural vegetation shall be left in its natural or improved state.
So you're saying delete improved?
Well, that we have, my understanding, we're living in a natural, was it under the other improved state or was it
I thought we had just discussed
left in
basically
natural?
a 30 feet buffer because sometimes there's not any vegetation. Sometimes there is vegetation. And I thought we had talked about 30 feet of just of a green area basically in between.
Well, I guess that would be the or improved. That would,
And it does say that the zoning and planning boards each could require additional measures to add additional screening.
Which is some of these things that this is why it seems almost monotonous to me because they already have the right to do that. That's why we have a zoning and planning board and they can request screening on any project.
that's true. That's totally true. Putting it in black and white and in text and in the code in this way, I think just reminds them and reiterates. It is, what you're saying is true. How, I'm not sure that everyone is always aware of that.
And then I had asked a couple of questions last time and nobody really gave me an answer, but now it's kind of saying it. It says 8,000 total feet of floor area. And nobody really gave me a definite, and now it's saying in one building, more building, and 40 feet of the outside. So if there's a 2-story building that goes up, we can only have a 4,000 square footprint, I take it?
No.
Well, that's what it says.
Got it. Now I understand. So if there's a 2-story retail building.
Or any type of business building.
It's retail. It's
Well, what's
solely,
considered retail? I mean, that's,
it's defined in the code.
so is a hotel considered retail?
No, I don't think so. I think it, well, hopefully it's
I
defined
think
in the
it's
code.
sale of goods and services.
Yeah.
And I had also mentioned a place like Hazelton's, and your argument, both of your arguments to me were, well, that's what variance is before. But we've also been at other meetings where you've sat there and said, variances are basically favors. They should never be given except in extreme circumstances. But now when I bring up something like that, oh, well, they can just get a variance for it. It's like, well, is it extreme circumstance? Or can they just get a variance anytime that they need it? And a lumberyard would be a situation where, well, is that an extreme circumstance? Do we need another lumberyard in town? Or does that lumberyard need to stay? The answer is always like, well, get a variance. But variances aren't guaranteed. Variances are basically favors.
Okay, Tim.
Retail use establishments providing goods, merchandise, or services to the general public for a fee such as, but not limited to, banks, educational services, gift shop, dry cleaners, laundromats, supermarkets, and food stores. Surprising that educational services is in there, but
Yeah, since we don't have any schools.
the others are, I think, within, the other examples are within what anyone would conceptualize when they hear the word retail. So supermarkets, markets.
I mean, I dare say, and I'm not sure, but
Can
I dare say that
Darren,
No, wait, Darren.
I wanted to finish what I was saying. I had another point to make.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
Simply quietly.
Simply, variances should not be favors. The criteria that a planning board or a zoning board uses to evaluate a variance is spelled out, is a state law and is spelled out by the state and in our zoning code.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a favor. There's
They have to meet a
specific
test.
criteria. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if,
Okay, Darren's turn.
I'm good.
Yes, go ahead.
So if a lumberyard was to be bought, they have to apply for a new business permit. giving our code, it says it's not allowed.
Are,
What would be their circumstances, because it's not allowed, that says this permit is a given?
Laura,
that runs with the land, not with the owner. It is already, if it's a pre-existing thing, it runs with the land. The special use permits, the variances run with the land, not with the owner.
Well, how come every time a business changes ownership, it has to go for a new special use permit and a new business permit?
Did Hazelton Lumber, if we're talking about lumber yards, they recently changed hands, and
I don't know.
I paid pretty close attention to the planning board, and I'm almost positive that they didn't need a new permit, right?
Well, okay, so there are a couple ways of doing it. If it's a changing of the ownership, I think, if it's in an area that's a non-conforming use, if it's a change of actual ownership, so it goes from Favor to Laura, then Laura would be obliged to apply for it. If you're purchasing the company, so you bought Hazelton Lumber Inc.,
Mhm.
that's not the same change as ownership. What you've done is you bought the company. So a deed may not have been given. I don't know. That's a possible explanation.
Special use permits, area variance, and use variances all run with the land.
So,
But not a business use permit.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether or not they can run a lumber mill, which is a use.
yeah,
They probably predate our zoning
I
code,
don't-
so they would have been grandfathered in the first place.
That is only the change use.
It was saying being a corporation or an LLC brings in
Well,
extra laws that
no, but
change the whole thing.
they just didn't change the who the actual legal owner is. Yeah, it's one of those things that totally amazes me. And I realize this is that Wilmington doesn't really have a zoning code. It doesn't zone. It is a land use code. So it tends to focus its inquiry on what's happening on the land and whether a permit should be issued, a special permit should be issued, whether a variance is required for what's happening on the land. One of Bill Wonderland brought up the question of the land use code actually has a way of doing conservation subdivisions. But where? Where in the town would they suggest to the town planning board that this is the time for you to be starting to look for?
The homestead housing. It's a
Well,
prime example.
but I'm just saying, but where in the code, right?
It's in there. It's under plan development.
Yeah, but it's a use, it's not an area of town.
No, it's anywhere in town,
Exactly.
wherever that there's a
Exactly.
subdivision.
So that's the interesting thing about it. The zoning is, I think, an idea of the town has said, listen, this part of town is where we would like to see agriculture. This is the part of town where we would like to see industrial development. This is the part of town where we would like to see conservation in cluster conservation subdivisions used. And so we don't really have that. We have, here we go, should everyone, a part of the, the conservation requirements that came up because of what happened recently on Hardy Road. And so there's nothing that tells us, you're on Hardy Road, it's time for you to look at doing one of these subdivisions. So Tim had his hand up first.
Thanks. I think of land use codes and zoning ordinances as synonymous. How are they different? When you say we have a land use code, not a zoning ordinance.
Because there are no zones exactly. What we've done is we have hamlets, and then we adopted the APA specifications for moderate intensity use, and then inside of those uses, we put the types of things that we're going to permit without any review, or we're going to need review, or all that stuff, and it has to work with the APA. But it isn't an expression on behalf of the town that we would like to see multiple family affordable housing in this area of town or something like that. This is residential. We could kick the STRs out, and we don't want to see them in town. So they'll be forbidden in a specific area of town because we've zoned it that way. And we can say, well, we'll allow you to have them over here. That's what zoning is. What we've done is we've got one big town, and we're telling you what each, what you're more or less allowed to do within each part of town based on the land use count, what you're going to do on the property. That's all.
Do you think of the previous code as more of a zoning ordinance?
Well, we uploaded the 1975 master plan online, and I included all of the maps as an attachment to that, so it's on our website. And you can see what they're looking for. They're looking to say, okay, so this road here is residential. Okay, well, you have to have a darn good reason why you're going to try to seek an exception for residential. If we say, okay, this is R1, no short-term rentals in R1. So if somebody's got one, it's grandfathered for a little while. That's why I don't think it necessarily runs with the land. Once it's gone, it's a non-conforming use, and then the non-conforming uses get eliminated by the zoning because they don't want it in that particular area. And so, to me, I'm not sure what happened with 2011.
In 2000, right. I think Randy very candidly said that it was to spur growth and development.
Well, that's fine.
That was the purpose.
I'm only looking at it from the point of view of what I can find and try to read up on.
This was an article in the Press Republican that he is
That's
quoted as saying that was the purpose.
Yeah, but that's it was at the town's idea too. So anyway, that's kind of what I and I've sort of looked at this this way, and I'm thinking. Still, I know I harp on about zoning for a year, but it seems to be sort of the missing tool in the toolkit for the town to really regulate the uses in certain areas a little better without necessarily being sort of in this area. Oh, it sounds like a good idea for us to do a conservation subdivision.
So,
go
can I
ahead.
touch on that?
Sure.
So, I'm not making up the running with the land.
No,
That's definitely true.
I'm
All
not-
three of those things. That's true. And also regarding the conservation subdivisions, the planning board has the right to request a developer to come back with the recommendation saying, we will work with you to decrease the setbacks in these areas if you can make a more compressed development and have this area that you are using for a leach field or otherwise, and it would be something that is broached by the planning board or I guess at that point it would be the zoning board of appeals, but
Yeah.
it is something that I don't think we utilize it, but it is part of our code.
It is, but what because it would help both the planning board and the property owner to know that they now own 150 acres in an area where if I'm interested in subdividing it, they're going to be asking me about a conservation subdivision. And that's part of the overall zoning idea. If it becomes kind of, by the case, so I did it over here and I didn't do it over here because the planning board personnel are a little different and have a different approach. Tim?
The idea in 2011 was to simplify the zoning code by just making everything the same, the zones the same as the APA land use classifications.
Right, yeah.
So it's much simpler and straightforward. Whether it's good or bad is any individual's particular belief system. But so I'm not. Should we vote on these proposed amendments to see whether any of them have support of the board?
So I will tell you right now, my concern is section 5. Special use permits shall not be granted if the proposed uses will have a material adverse impact upon or a clearly adverse aesthetic impact upon the town of Wilmington.
Mhm.
Well, that's kind of subjective what aesthetic is. And also the town of Wilmington. So if I have something on the far end of Bruce Hare Way and it's not an aesthetic of Wilmington, I'm going to say that somehow or other somebody could deny the special use permit because of how ugly it is in relation to where the Hungry Trout is. That's the town of Wilmington. And so that's the kind of, that I would see if I could tighten that up a little bit. I'm thinking what we should do is people write up between now and the next meeting propose comments for this, and if it's ready for the next meeting, we can go to, if the board wants the lawyer or something like that. Is that all right? Because
Yeah.
we're talking out loud about this like that, which is fine.
Just with aesthetic, the word aesthetic is used 6 times in our zoning code, including on the first page. And it's, when someone says that it makes an adverse aesthetic impact, it's not just one person or 3 people saying, I don't like the way that looks. Like the planning board of the town of North Elba, they did findings of fact, and they did visual impact studies. And there was 16 pages of research related to noise and traffic and visual impact and screening and all the rest. So aesthetic, it does seem subjective, but as Favor and I know, the law is shot through with subjectivity. The law is not black and white. It is subjective. And the word aesthetic, it's in our zoning code repeatedly, including related to like special use permits, site plan review. So adding the word aesthetic again, 7th time, I don't think is a big stretch, especially since it's what allowed the town of North Elba to deny the permit to Walmart.
Tim, can you remind us what it says now? Because I know there was just like, we're going all through this because of one word. Rather than material adverse, and right now it's subdue adverse or some.
Undue.
Right?
Undue
So
adverse.
we're going through all this to change undue to material, correct?
Correct. Because undue is much more vague. Who knows what undue, again, that is subjective. Who knows what undue is? We all would see that differently. Materially is much more clear and easy to define. Related to this screening, I just wanted to mention, it is implied in our code. I'm not sure if it's spelled out that our planning board can require screening. It probably is in there, but putting it in here again as an amendment would remind our planning board they can do it. If they don't know, it spells it out if it's not in there already, and it gives the planning board stronger legal grounds to require it.
Anyone else?
And the last thing that I know Tina had brought up last time that we had talked about the dumpsters, and that was, for the most part, everybody agreed, but there's certain situations where you literally can't be 20 feet from a property line or a public roadway, and Fratelli's being one of them. And what would we do with a dumpster if we can't put it in those locations? And there's never any answers to this other than they can get a variance, and that's always the answer.
I think, unfortunately, the answer to that is, fortunately or unfortunately, since this is all inspired by a particular dumpster that's not that dumpster, is that the existing uses are grandfathered in.
Until that business changes hands, and then it's no longer. Yep, exactly.
Well, we're back to that circular point.
Well, it runs with the land.
Okay, so what would we like to do? Tina, what would you like to do next?
Does it run with the land if it changes the use?
You'd have to ask for another use variance. You'd have to get a use variance if it's not part of the code.
Maybe. We'll be going to the attorney at some point soon, so we'll ask Mark.
Believe so. Could be wrong, I don't think.
I wouldn't think that would run with the land if it changed. What do you
Well,
mean?
that's I'm
What do you
saying.
mean?
The business changes its use.
But you mean the new business or the existing?
The existing business, if Fratelli's changes to a different business.
Yep, start again.
I would think that wouldn't.
So,
That's a new use.
Let's
Yeah.
start again.
so then this wouldn't,
I'm sorry. What would you like to do next? 'Cause
well, I
Suzanne would
would like to
you-
review it and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Darren, what would you like to do next?
As it stands now, I'm voting no, and I'll just leave it as that.
All right, fair enough. Laura?
Make edits, bring it to the next meeting, and then decide if it's a move forward.
Sure. Okay, Tim, I'm sorry, I agreed with you.
I think it's good as written. However, as long as we seem to be making forward progress,
Okay.
I think that's positive.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, move fast. This is public comment, Suzanne. I'm sorry to, notice you could talk to us, please.
You mean with my suggestion that we spoke about earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just gave this, you can each have a copy. Hang on. I'm on the Board of Assessment Review, so that's what this has to do with. And I'm sure you're all probably agree with it. My main point was really for the senior citizens exemption. It's really, I don't know when that amount was set. Maybe 1980, I'm not sure, but I think we should raise it because everything else is going up. And I wrote this so that you could, I'm not very good at public speaking.
Okay.
But being on the bar, especially last year, I was really touched by a lot of people's stories, and it kind of hit home. And I really would have liked to help all of them, but I know I couldn't do that.
Mhm.
So this is my other recourse. Hopefully you will read it all and take it into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you. We did recently, I think within the past 2 years, they did increase the senior citizen exemption amounts. But it is still a microscopic amount of money. But yes, it was recently readjusted for.
Yeah, see, I'm on a fixed budget.
No,
So
I'm
I
not-
only just found out about, I didn't realize that it was the adjusted income on your, so I'm actually $8 over the limit, and that's why I'm angry. So if it's me, because there are a lot of other people that are in the same boat. So they have to figure out, do I pay my taxes, or do I put gas on my car? So I'm on the verge really of selling my house and moving because I can't afford it anymore. So I'm actually speaking for people in my boat.
No, I was just answering your question about when it was last done. It was a couple of years ago. The amount of money that
So
the qualifying
right
income.
now it's up to $33,399.99.
I have it here. I don't know, but I can let you know. But it was just done a couple of years ago.
But okay.
I know it's a tiny amount of money. I'm just saying, but it wasn't in the 80s that it was adjusted. It was just recently.
Okay, that's I don't have any idea because I couldn't find out when it was adjusted last.
Recently, at least within the past couple of years.
And I'm really here. There's a lot of people up here that are working part-time jobs. 2 of them just put food on the table, and I feel bad for those people.
I'll be off. I don't think any of us don't.
You don't have to look it up. It's fine.
No, for my own.
She's worse than me with details.
So
Okay.
I did hand out at the beginning of the year, North Elba had adopted an adjustment to its local law in 2023 where they the exemption schedule put out by the state that the town could not include Social Security income as part of the calculation, whether they reach what level of the exemption cap.
Oh, you know what? That's a really good way around it. That's perfect.
Yeah, and I did have it was busy, and I had all sorts of things handed out. So I have a copy here today of what North Elba did. I'm hoping that the board will go back to a couple of the other ones and the exemption. One is a partial exemption for long-term rental capital improvements, a partial exemption for accessory use buildings for long-term rentals and things like that. So this one here, we'll need to circle back, but I was
Okay.
they brought that to my attention in North Elba.
No, the thing with the Social Security.
Yeah, if you
that
take the
never goes up.
the Social Security, you deduct that from the sheet that they use to calculate your income to see whether you qualify.
So then it would be better. So it could stay that level, but it would not include Social Security as income.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
So anyway, so that's a possibility for the town, the board here to look at all of its exemptions, because
Yeah, 'cause
I'll be honest with you, I think what we did was we resolved to follow the state. Then we have a local law that does volunteer firefighters, and then we have a local law that does cold water veterans and things like that. I'd love to certainly get in there and just sort of make them all.
I like the idea of the Social Security because that really never goes up. It goes up it's on there, 0.3.
So,
This is state, for school taxes, if you wanted to look at that too. That's,
Oh, I don't want to take your papers.
you can take it. I can find another one. You can have it.
hopefully we can, we have to get those passed and,
Yeah, if you can do
tax-
something
tax
with Social
status.
Security, that would be perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can do something.
A little something, not a hell of a lot sometimes.
Thank you very much.
Randy, go ahead.
Do we get an assessment every year, a letter saying how much our assessment per day or
I think, if there's a townwide reevaluation, they send letters to everybody from the county. If your assessment has changed in a particular year by probably some factor, they'll give you notice of that, maybe? I don't know.
Yes, they do.
Okay,
I called
all
to
right,
find out why some people were getting it and some people weren't.
okay. And then people who don't have any change didn't get any letter in the mail.
just a question?
And, they send them out and then they bill the town for the postage. So, and when we get the bill for the postage from the county, the large ones are, when they send them out to everybody. Thank you. You're welcome. Anybody else? Oh, hi, Bill.
Hello.
Hey, Bill.
Just a couple of quick comments here. The first is just following up on the discussion about the zoning and the maps. Certainly using the APA land use classification as a basis for our zoning is pretty inadequate. I do hope that with the new comprehensive plan, we'll have a good basis for making a higher resolution determination of what should go where. It's just like gardening. You got to figure out where you want to plant things and then make them prosper. The second comment was actually triggered by Louie's comments at the beginning about needing to pay for some sand. I've been wanting to ask this question of the town board for a while, and that is whether you have ever considered replacing using rock salt and sand with brine, which is becoming increasingly more common. Did a tour of the Peru Highway Department earlier this year. They're very happy with it. Is it something that's on the radar at all for Wilmington?
Yeah, to be honest, Randy Preston is among the first people to start a campaign in that direction for brining. And there is a group, I've been to them twice, workshops among the local people in the steps towards moving towards brining. And Peru is the Bell standard. And they query the town of Wilmington about what sort of brining improvements, what they're working towards in that direction and in terms of salt reduction. And the issue for Wilmington would be the capital costs of some of the brining trucks. Peru's agreed to basically become like the brining brewery, so they'll supply sort of the brine water, so our town doesn't necessarily have to do it. But once I think Louis' idea eventually is to get a truck that fits that, and then we would go up to Peru, get the brine from there, and try that out. So yes, thank you. Yeah, I've been to a couple of their conferences and workshops.
Okay, glad it's on the radar. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
I had asked for the budget stuff to be on the agenda.
Well, do you want to set the budget, you want to set the fund balance stuff?
We were going to revisit it and
Yeah,
we didn't in the beginning of the month, so.
Yeah, well, I'd be honest, but he had asked Louis, Darren, we all talked about the department heads getting some of their stuff together to give a request, and one of them was to John. And John,
John's out of town.
John's out of town. And so,
Unavoidable.
and his is the department I really want him to help work on, his future ideas too, about what he would need. Because I think
Indicate to me that he has that just about done.
Yeah, but he's not here. So, but to me, if we could, I know I prefer a work session kind of deal to work on that kind of stuff as well. So, I don't know whether we can get materials together for the next meeting. Would that, if I get stuff from everybody and I get it before the next meeting, hopefully that would be.
Maybe we could plan on the next work session because the regular meetings are just so
Yeah,
long.
they're not ideal. I agree.
Well, I did do some edits. You had asked for those edits.
Sure. Thank you.
I'll pass them out and you guys can read them before the next whatever.
Thank you.
I did highlight them, but my printer is not working for print, so I'm sorry. It doesn't do color, so it was in yellow. But
Okay.
I can send you it in email format, but that's the paper copy. And
Sure.
then I put in my recommendations.
On the final page? No.
Here, the last part. Those.
Oh, okay,
And then a
that's your,
couple edits to the text, but I'll send it to you because it was highlighted, but it didn't print, so I'm sorry. But
You're gonna send it an email? then?
yes,
And
yes.
we'll have one?
Here, I'll give you the paper one, and then I'll also give you I'll send you a highlighted version.
thank you, Laura.
Yep.
Good. Thanks very much.
Mhm.
Anybody else on the board have anything?
It's probably not the time or place, but there was question again as the Music Fest meeting was yesterday, and there was question again whether the town was going to support the porta potty efforts, as this year they have secured their own dumpsters.
Okay.
So the town shouldn't have to take care of garbage because that's been paid for by the committee.
Okay.
So if
So,
we want
yeah.
to do that today, that can be brought up at the next meeting, which is fine.
Yeah, we'll bring that next meeting. I will say that the Porta Johns, 4 of them have been set up. The one that had been on Hardy Road at the bike park area, I asked that they put it at the Visitors Bureau. I've had a couple people around town on that side of the park say that they'd like to have a Porta John, and then the Visitors Bureau also isn't open as much for the need for people to use the facilities. And at the end of the day, we don't have to pump the septic at the Visitors Bureau or things like that. So those are where the 4 are. I think we can talk if we want to maybe order some more for the season. We can bring that up. I can't think of any offhand, but the board might. And then I'll try to get something about the Music Fest requirements for the Porta John. Ahead of time. Motion? Oh, Randy, go ahead.
Is there one on Hardy Road for the bikes at all, or?
Well, see, last year that was kind of, I'm wondering whether the board would support the idea of us ordering another for that space.
I think it should be in the main parking lot, not on that little
Yeah.
3-car parking lot.
Does the DEC have one there?
There's an outhouse
Yeah.
there.
There is one there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
not in the big, not in the,
Across the road.
not on the J side of the road.
Across the road.
Correct. There's
I was wondering what that building was.
it is a porta
Okay.
potty. It is a
As long
outhouse.
as there's something there.
Yeah, I think we ordered it last year thinking we were going to put it on that side of Hardy Road. Didn't get needed, so we put it down at the other parking lot.
As long as there's one there,
Okay. Yep. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.